Hello, back. Well, welcome back. Today I'm going to cover a game from a couple of weeks ago. Actually, I forgot to upload it. Yeah, I'm going to just talk through it now. Well, the first time I did try and film it, the sound went crap, so I couldn't re-upload it, of course. So that's quite annoying. So otherwise, it's fine. Yeah. So the game starts off with D4, Queen's Pawn opening. D5, basically probably going into some kind of Queen's Gambit kind of thing. Closed game. Knight F3, Knight C6, and yeah, E3 and A6. I'm playing with black, and I do win in this one. But it's quite a nice win, I think. Yeah. So I play A6 just to stop this pin on the B file, pinning the knight to the king, absolute pin. So that I want to prevent that. That's why I play A6. C3, and if you notice, this system is very similar to the London system. The bishop should be out here in the London. So this is the Collie system, I think, something like that. It would have been better for white to play C4, and then I had to block the centre off. And this makes white more aggressive and gives white more space in the long run. And then they can develop the bishop quite easily on the diagonals and stuff like that. So that's what white should have played. Instead, they played quite passively C3, and knight F6 they play, and knight B to D2, blocking off the bishop. Maybe the bishop's going to develop this side. I'm not 100% sure. Bishop to F5 and C4. I know playing C3 earlier kind of lost the tempo. So now just kind of, instead of pushing it in one move, we push it in two moves, which is kind of a little bit strange. It would have actually been better to play bishop to E2, possibly stopping the pin, but also just developing the bishop and allowing castling. H6. I play H6 because I want to stop this. I want to stop the knight probably going here. And then this would probably win the variation after bishop to E2. But instead, C4 is played and E6 is played, kind of keeping the centre, trying to keep the centre as defended as possible, and Queen B3. And now, this is probably the losing move of the game. I think after this move, white could have resigned. Actually, it doesn't look that bad, to be honest, does it? However, instead of that, A3 should have been played, and just to kind of stop this pin on the king, and now just developed normally. And there's this very interesting line actually with bishop to D6, C5, and bishop F8, kind of what's the word? Giving the incentive to white to close the center, and then he could play B6 and then open the center up again. It's a very very weird position, but that's what the computer suggests. But instead of Queen B5. Yeah, knight to B4, and this is the only winning move in this situation, in this position actually. Knight to B4. I also considered bishop to B4, but I didn't like the idea, just because even though the bishop hasn't been developed yet, it doesn't actually do anything on B4, and then white could play A3 and kick it off. So that's why I didn't want to play like that. So instead, Queen B3 and knight to B4. And E4, quite idea, trying to get some more centre, but knight takes on E4, and I think basically my opponent tried to block this square for the bishop, but however the knight takes now this square is still blocked and could take back if you wanted to, but you want to try and keep this square as safe as possible, because if you look carefully, if a knight goes there, it can be the forks the king and the rook. So then he plays C5. My opponent plays C5, and I play A5. And the idea behind C5 is to stop the bishop protecting knights, and they can be taken by the queen. But A5 just re-protects the knight. I could have also played knight takes C5, D takes C5, and knight to C2 check. And I actually missed this line when I was in the game. I missed this line. because then I could just go for the rook. But I think the reason why I didn't play it is because it looked really dangerous after this move, where you can take back, and then white could take the queen, you take back, then your king's now in the open in the center, whereas there's black's king's also in the center, but then your knight's actually stuck in this area. You can't actually get the knight out really. So then, even though it's still losing for white, it does look a little bit scary for black. But that's probably why I didn't go for this. I play a5 and bishop to b5 check. I considered this idea, but I didn't like it because of c6, and he had to go back to wherever he goes. And actually, it's quite funny. Bishop e2 is a lot better than what was played, which is bishop to d3. And why is bishop d3 so bad? Or because of knight takes d2, and you're thinking, but doesn't that just trade a knight? And after king takes, you are right. You are possibly right if you think that the knight has just been traded. However, look at this. There's two pieces attacking, and there's two pieces defending. But both of those two pieces defending are higher value than the pieces that are attacking. So knight takes on d3. And also, if bishop takes on d3, there's a3, and I have to go, and then I thought maybe the knight's trapped. I'm probably going to lose the knight, because if I move the knight, then the bishop gets taken. If I move the bishop, the knight gets taken. So, but then I missed bishop to c4, and after a takes, you can take the queen back. It's quite interesting. And there's also queen to e3 that also saves the position, but I just didn't like this. I just find this a little bit scary to play. So knight takes on d3, and queen takes on b7. Now the idea is to open up the queen side a little bit, and if let's say I play rook to b8, then my opponent can take the pawn on c6 and win another pawn for his loss. Queen to c8 though, so this prompts a queen trade. My opponent just goes back to b3. It could have also been played takes. This is still losing for white, because remember, white's now down a whole piece, minor piece. But then you basically now it's a lot easier for black to play actually. But I kind of wanted to keep the queens on the board. That's why I think that's why my opponent also didn't trade, because I think my opponent wanted to keep the queens on the board as well. But queen a6 defends the knight again, and h3 stopping me going here, and also for some other reason I think also to play g4 as well. Knight h4 would have been better actually, to just attack the bishop straight off. And now remember, this bishop can't really go anywhere, because if it goes here, it gets kicked away, and if it goes back, then the knight takes it, and then they lose protector of this knight. And then the queen can take it, and then if the queen takes, then the king takes back. It's very difficult to play after that. And then if knight takes, you still take the bishop, and I take the rook, and then trade off pieces. And it's actually, what's quite funny here is now white's had a rook instead of a minor piece, but apparently it's slightly better. I don't know why. It's like -10 instead of what was played, which is now -11. So it's slightly better, but it's not much better. A bishop e7 is played by me, quite passive move. I'm just wanting to develop the bishop from castle kingside. Queen to b6, offering a queen trade. Should have taken it earlier, I think. But queen takes. I could have also played queen c8, and then my opponent would have played rook e1, just developing the rook. And this is very similar to the situation we had earlier, but now instead of the queen being on b7, it's now on b6. Really. However, queen takes b6 and c takes b6. Now the c pawn's quite weak. You can't really protect it. So now I can go for it. However, I first play check, bishop to b4. And knight takes f2 could have also been played, attacking the rook. King e2 though, and there's actually, if you look carefully, there's, I mean, it looks like it's mate, but there's not. Now I'm going to take you through a couple of options here. If you look carefully, white has possible moves of here, 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 and I think that's it. Am I correct? Or here as well, I think. I think those are the 4 possible moves that white can play. And 2 of these moves are blunders. That's why king e2 was played, because that's like the only not blunder. There's king c2, but after king c2 there's this nice discovered check, and you win the rook. King b3, and then you just take the rook. And if king d1, there's this nice fork, knight takes f2 again, and king e2 and knight takes h1. So that's probably why my opponent didn't play either of the other moves. But then I just play rook d8, attack the pawn again. a3 is played, attacking the bishop. Bishop just goes back to b6, and bishop to e3, developing the bishop. Rook takes on b6. I could have also played knight takes on b2, and after knight e5, c5, and then this kind of... the idea behind c5, actually, is to stop the knight from taking on c5, and then attacking this piece. Very, very similar. Very, very fun idea. But then, actually, you also have this check as well first, before you take the pawn. So it's quite a nice position for black actually in this case. I'm just showing you some computer lines which I quite liked when I was analysing the game last time. b4 was played, and rook to b5, and this is not it's kind of like a mistake, but it's not the worst mistake. I could have also taken actually. If a takes and a takes, then I would have had to castle because otherwise white has rook to a8, and it's quite dangerous. But then instead, white would play knight to h4 and then attack the bishop, and then this piece would be in danger. And if h3, if I play random with h6, and knight to e5, knight takes e5. So if you take a look at this, the bishop is attacking this piece here. So if I would have played h6, I would have actually lost rook for a bishop. Because after knight takes, you can see there's two pieces being attacked. So it's kind of like a discovery attack on two pieces. But then bishop to c7, and we would have just traded off, and I would still be winning. Black would still be winning. So even though it looks quite dangerous, that move, it's not actually that dangerous. It's quite funny. Although h6 is kind of a weakening move, it's not very good to play in this situation anyway. And knight e5 is still played anyway. a4 would have been better, and I would have just taken. So knight e5, knight takes e5, and d takes e5. But in this case, the bishop's not attacking the rook, so therefore there's no double attack, and bishop just takes on e5. Rook ace to c1, attacking this pawn here, and I move the king to d7, just to protect the pawn and also allow the rook to come out and go double on the rook file. A takes b4 is also possible, and a takes b4, and then rook takes b4, rook h to d1 is also possible. However, instead of playing this, my opponent just plays directly rook h1. G4 is also possible actually in this case. Bishop d6 and then f4, attacking the bishops, basically wanting just to kick them out. Bishop to d6, basically just kicking the bishops out of your territory, getting some more space on this side. But then you're still down a minor piece and a couple of pawns, so yeah, it's not really worth it, because then remember I still have this nice trade here. So that's why. But after rook h d1, I take, and he doesn't take back. He advances with the rook onto c4. But I just take another pawn. So remember now I'm up loads more pawns. He's only got 3, I've got 7. So I'm now 4 pawns and a bishop. Rook a4, wanting to attack the pawn. And nice, this rook b2 check, this nice move. And actually, bishop to b2 is actually slightly better because it protects the piece. I was kind of scared of it being attacked, but it can't actually be attacked because they're protecting each other. It's quite funny. But then there would have this rook a7. There would be this rook a7 check, and this is quite. Then king d6 is the forced move there. If you go back onto the back rank, you lose the rook, because it's you kind of pin the king through the rook. Or you pin the rook through the king, and then the king has to move because remember it's in check. So that's why I didn't play that kind of. That's why I didn't want to. That's like the only forcing move after rook to a7 check. But after rook b2 check, bishop to d2, blocking this check but pinning the bishop. Quite dangerous. Rook d2 is also playable, but then I would have to double the rooks on the d file, on the b file, and the rook a takes d2, and the bishop would take, and then I would still have this pin, but then I would be down a pawn. And then remember, there's this idea of kicking the bishops out again, because these bishops are kind of doing nothing in this place at the moment. However, instead of that, a2 could also be played, because after bishop to d2, which is played in the game, I play bishop to c2 and attack the rook. However, I could also play a2 and just push the pawn down. And now I would play bishop to c3, king e3, and I would go for this nice winning move and win a bishop. And the idea behind this setup is that you trap white's rook in the corner, and they can't take, because if they take the bishop, you win a rook and you get a queen. If they take the pawn, then you just win a rook. Of course, for some pieces, but you're still winning. So that's kind of the idea behind this computer line. But if you go back to the game, bishop to c2, and rook a7 check, and king d6, and I could have also blocked the bishop. I didn't want to because I wanted the bishop for attacking. And if king d8, like I showed you, rook a7, king c7, and now the rook takes on h8. The bishop takes on d1 check, and king takes on d1 and a3. And now white's going to have quite a difficult time stopping this because of this move. And now remember, now white's down a whole rook, and it looks quite really dangerous. I mean, of course, I didn't see all of these lines in my head. I'm just showing what the computer likes. King d6 was played after the rook check. Rook a1. Just adding another attacker to this piece, since now the bishop can't protect it. So now I'm going to lose the piece. So I play rook hb1 and lose the pawn, but it doesn't really matter, because after rook 1 takes a3 and f5, there's f4 attacking the bishop, and the bishop goes forward instead of going back. Going back would have been quite dangerous, because now this rook's active on the second rank, so it could have been a massacre, of course. So that's why I go forward. However, now the bishop's not protected, so now the rook can come up and attack it. However, rook 7 to a5, and I think this is a misplay or something. And what's quite funny is my opponent tried to take the pawn, but then he's sure that the bishop was guarding the pawn, so that's why he didn't play that. Rook a2 would have possibly been better, but after bishop takes and rook takes, and now rook 8 to b3, it looks very dangerous for white. Basically, the idea behind playing this move is to kick this bishop out of the center. Bishop to e4. Now I want to trap the king in this nice net here, and then I could probably try and make the two bishops, which could be quite funny. However, rook 5 to a4, attacking this bishop, which is now not protected. However, bishop to c5, and my opponent misses this really clever tactic, because now the rook's under attack, so he has to move the rook. So he goes rook to g3, and bishop to b4, and after bishop b4, my opponent resigns, because this bishop's under attack, and if you trade off the pieces, you're now low in material. Yeah, you can't do anything, because now you can't protect it because of this bishop. Rook a2 could have been played, and the rook would just come up, because you wouldn't want to trade the rooks really, because your rook's active, his is not, my opponent's not. Rook a1 could have also been played, and after this rook 8 b3, there's rook d1, rook a3 check, rook e3 check, king f2, and actually, what's quite funny, in this position, it's actually mate in 9 for black, and I'm going to show you the mate in 9. So after king f2, you basically gobble up all the pieces, gobble, 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 give some nice checks. What's funny is, even if you sacrifice the bishop, you still lose, you still win, because it's still mate in 6, however white plays. Because basically, now white's going to get stuck in a corner, and white has to give up all the pieces to survive. And now this fun idea, by getting the king stuck in a corner, now you can just checkmate him with the bishop, which is quite nice, because the bishop is protected, and you can't go here because of this bishop, and these rooks are blocking this exit, and the rook's protected through the king, which is quite cool. So that's why I quite like that checkmate, but I didn't see it. So after, and I'm going to show you what could have been the end of the game. So after rook takes, rook a takes b4, rook 8 takes b4, king e1, rook b1 check, king e2, and actually it's mate in 13. So I'm going to show you the mate in 13. Yeah, of course I don't see mates in 13s in my game usually. And king e1, rook a4, rook e3, rook a1 check, king e2, king f2. King e2 is actually quite funny. Looks like it protects the piece, and it possibly does. However, you have this move, rook a2, and now you're going to win the piece anyway. So, and white can't escape with his king, so it's quite funny. And it's so if white would have gone rook, king e2, it would have been worse than king f2. Of course, if we block with the bishop is mate in 1, of course. But yeah, king f2, and again you have to sacrifice all your pieces. And it's quite funny, you just trade off rooks, and you're still winning. You kick the king onto the back rank, and you move your king down, and you move your king down. This piece is now protected by the bishop. You move the king, and the only piece white can move is the pawn, so you have to be careful not to stir it. And the king comes across, and the king comes across, and the king comes across. And white's just one tempo out of the way. If white played this move here, then it would have been a stalemate. However, they couldn't. And now, it's checkmate. With a discovered checkmate, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I hope you liked that recap of the game. I played, what was it, on the... When did I play it? I played it, I think it was the 6th. I think it was the 6th I played it on. I'm going to check that. I'm fairly certain it was the 6th because it was the week before I played. The week before I played, last one I played. And I'm going to show that recap because it actually shows how bad I can be sometimes. However, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. I did make a mistake last time saying the last one was the penultimate. It's not. The one I just played, so the one I lost, is the penultimate, and then I have one this week as well. So I'm going to be 2 more videos coming up, and then that would be the end of the season. So guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.